Hello.
Hey everybody, Bart Roebler here from Drummers Education Connection. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with three of the greatest drummers and the greatest friends in the world down in San Diego. The man that just played us in, Mr. Rick Stojak, in Tucson, Arizona. He's only a few miles that way from me right now. Chip Ritter, and up in the Bay Area, Jeremy Steinkohler. Today's show is brought to you by Waterloo. I don't know why I did that. I just had to do something. Anyway, today I'm on the road, and that's kind of what today's show is about. We're going to be talking about being on the road, and the show must go on. And I'm going to tell a story of how this trip started out, and it's been going pretty good, but the challenges that we've had. But before we get started, we'd like to take care of a little bit of business here. First of all, if you watch D.E.C all the time and you're on with us and everything like that, you want to support us, we'd greatly appreciate it. You can do that at Patreon. And just help us keep the lights on, pay for our website and stuff like that. And then we like to start off with the thing that we do called Good Things, okay? And we want to talk about the good things that are going on in our personal lives. It can be with our music, our books, or anything. It can be, that we went and saw some birds today, whatever. So I'm going to kick it up to Jeremy. Jeremy, what's going on that's good in your life?
Let's see. This Saturday, we've got my band MoPhone has our second album release show in San Francisco. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Beckett. And I just got back from a 10-day trip with Evan for his college auditions, touring around the country. And I'll just share this really quick one with you guys. We went to Northwestern in Chicago and Oberlin in Ohio. And while we were in Ohio, in Cleveland, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for an afternoon. And so much fun. I mean, it was a cool place to go and check out all the cool stuff they've got there. Homage to the early influencers, a whole section on Elvis part. You would have been in love with that thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
He had his suits and his motorcycle and his guitars and all that. And then they had a jam room where they had 3 staff people and anybody could come in and play with them. And you could pick from a list of 30 tunes and pick your instrument and play with these, musicians. And so Evan and I went in and we played Superstition, and he was on the keys and I was playing the drums, and we just destroyed it. And there was a huge crowd of people,
awesome.
Clapping. And so we ended up staying there for 5 or 6 tunes and pretty much holding court for a half hour. And I knew every tune on the list because that's what I do. And he knew, he was able to pick them up with that. So we had just a blast. That was like a real highlight of the trip. Anyways, yeah, and his auditions went great, and he's back tonight, so looking forward to seeing this.
Nice.
Good. Chip, what about you? What do you got going on that's really good, buddy?
Man, I just yesterday a young girl named Alan, who's 9 years old, brought in a cracked cymbal that had writing all over it. Said, "Chip, the best drum teacher ever. I love it when you make me laugh. It makes learning fun." And just all this stuff on the cymbal. So my heart swelled, and I've got a new broken cymbal that's been autographed by a student. So that's my good thing, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it's awesome, Chip.
Fantastic. Rick, what about you, buddy? What's happening?
Well, really great family stuff. My sister-in-law, Laura, and Gene Hoagland are coming back today after recording an album in Vancouver for Dark Angel. And they were at a studio that Aerosmith and Bon Jovi and AC/DC has recorded at. So that's just really, really exciting stuff. And also, my Volume 4 book, little advertisement, it's going to be available on Friday. So I can't wait.
Yeah, Rick, way to go, man.
Triplet book.
Nice, man.
Way to go, Rick.
You guys, over 10 years in the making to get this one done, but it's going to have over 300 songs listed and all the beats for those songs, all the shuffles, all the triplets. So super exciting. So thank you for supporting it, guys.
Yeah, man. Congratulations. Can't wait to check it out.
Rick, I'm so looking forward to it, man. I'm so looking forward to it. Hey, so today's show is kind of about, what it takes to really be a musician and what it really takes to be on the road, I think, and to also be careful for what you ask for what you want, because you might just get it. And when you get it, it's not exactly what you expect. Now, I'm going to give a pre-reference here before I get started in talking about how this whole idea came to be. If I sound a little weird today and it's a little loud and you hear some stuff in the background, I'm in an Airbnb on tour with the Sam Morrison Band right now. A couple of guys are up in their room practicing, and people are living their life today. We don't have to play. And we don't have to play our instruments today, so people are practicing. Isn't that weird? So anyway, so if I sound a little bit different today, that's why I'm obviously not in my studio. So, the old saying, the show must go on. This trip has been a prime example of that, and a prime example of a brotherhood and a band coming together to make it happen when the chips are down. Hey, there you go. When the chips are down. Chip Ritter. So, I'm going to kind of start by telling the story of how this whole trip started. The day before we're leaving, we were to leave, which was last Wednesday. I'm in the middle of my teaching day, and I see a phone call come in from Sam, and he usually doesn't call me in the afternoon because he knows I'm teaching. But I knew something was up, and so in between students, I checked my phone. He's like, call me as soon as you can. So I call him up, and what's going on, man? And he goes, well, the SUV, the band's SUV, the computer went out on it and it died. So we don't have a vehicle to go on tour with. We have an SUV that seats 6, and we pull a trailer with it. We used to have a bus. Now we have the SUV. It seats everybody comfortably, and we pull a trailer that is literally, you can't put a toothpick in there. It's so full of gear. And but we have nothing to go with. So he goes, can you pull it with your truck? Well, my truck wasn't ready. I needed an oil change. My tires aren't ready to go. So I'm like, man, I can't do it, bro. And I'm in the middle of my teaching day, so I can't help him out. So he goes, okay. And we hang up, and I say, I'll call you when I get done. Well, by the time I got done teaching, Sam had he'd gone to Enterprise and rented a 4-seat Ford F-250 diesel, and which is fantastic. It's made to do exactly what we're doing with it. Pull the trailer. Okay, problem solved. The biggest problem is fuel and the rental cost on the truck, which comes off the top of the tour, and then we have a follow vehicle, which is our keyboard player's truck, and he was going to drive out anyhow, but since he has to drive to every gig now, we're paying for the fuel and that. So that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest issue. No big deal. We can handle that. So things are going good, and we get to the first gig, right? We load into the first gig, and stuff starts happening that Spinal Tap wishes they would have thought of. Okay, it's like things are just, it's just the little gremlins, right? We get all set up. Well, I get the drum set up, and everything's cool. All my stuff's working, and we travel with our own in-ear monitor system. Okay, and we run our in-ears. Each one of us runs it off a tablet or a phone. Tablets work best because you can, see the sliders and the faders and everything. And we all put in our in-ears, and we start hearing there's music, and it's like not coming from us, and it's not coming from the front of the house. And we're like, what the hell where's that music coming from? And so pretty soon, hold on just a second, guys. Hold on just. Anyway, so comes to find out the music is coming into some of the wireless systems, right? And it's the Sirius XM satellite radio. and you got to realize our system is built so that that shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. And our bass player is the most techie guy in the world. He's phenomenal at what he does. And he has a Mac, just like the one that I'm on right now, that he travels with. And there's this, I don't know the name of the program, but it's a very complicated, very in-depth program that shows you where the radio frequencies are, right, that are open. So you can literally like, okay, we have this bandwidth right here. And he goes and programs all the in-ears so that we won't have this problem. Well, sure enough, it didn't work. And he can't do anything about it. I mean, he can't. And Greg, if somebody can solve this problem, it's Greg. And he can't fix it. Well, everybody in the band is kind of the type of people that we all want to help. And I know I'm learning after all these years in the band to have an active restraint. Because if I go in there and start trying to help, I'm just going to be asking dumb questions and getting in the way. So I just step back. Well, because of who I am as a person, I feel like, oh my gosh, I should be helping, and I'm not helping, and I feel really bad about that. So as time goes on, it sort of is getting fixed, and it's sort of not. The sound crew that was with us, we usually have top drawer sound people. This sound guy was really good, and his gear was good, but I don't know what this guy was thinking. His cabling, all of his cabling was like 1,000,000 years old, but he was really proud of it. He's like, this drum snake, I built it myself for my drummer in 1980. And you're like, dude. So anyway, we get all set up. We finally get to a point where, okay, it's doable. We can fix this. We're good. We do a sound check. Sound check goes okay. Sam ended up switching guitars, and we were thinking that maybe the radio frequencies were coming through his G&L. He's endorsed by G&L guitars because they have these really different pickups in them. So he switched to an SG that has humbuckers, and that made it a little bit quieter. And we get through sound check, but there was still some noise, and that we were trying to fix. We got like 15 or 20 minutes before showtime. Doors have been open. The crowd's filling up. There's no curtain. We're just out there in the open. And there were some issues with the Leslie cabinet. And going from the Hammond to the Leslie, we travel with a full Hammond B3 and a Leslie cabinet, the real deal. No computer. No, we're bringing it and we're playing. Our microphones are on. And the cable going from the Hammond to the Leslie, it's an old vintage piece of equipment, and there was a soldering issue. Well, I worked for Orange County Speaker before I could make a living as a player for many years, and so they're like, "Oh, I got to solder this cable, and we only have 15 minutes." I'm like, "I'm your man," because I'm great at soldering. So I go out there. Yes,
with 2 words.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yep. So I go out to solder, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to solder a wire together. We're going fast, and the cable had not been unplugged. Now, the one thing that I know about working on electronics for years and years and years is always check your source. We're going fast. And I didn't check my source. I was under the assumption that somebody else had done that because they were already, the soldering iron was hot. He had already attempted it. He needed 3 hands to do it. He couldn't do it. I said, just give it to me. I can do it. Solder in this hand, soldering iron in this hand. I touched the 2 together. Boom! Right in my face. I feel a shock because it's one thing if you get shocked by picking this up and it's hot, your left hand goes, Gah! But when you get a source that you get shocked and it goes from here to here, that means it goes across your chest through your heart. And I felt it. and it scared the crap out of me, and it blew up and it popped, and it was my hands from up to my elbows immediately went numb.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I flipped out. I lost it, and I'm not proud of this. This is the part where I'm and I got to sidestep for a second. All you young musicians out there, the reason I'm telling this story is not for a pity party. I'm telling this story because if you really want to do this, this is what's going to happen. These things will happen, not if, but when. And I'm not proud of the fact that I freaked. I'm not. I'm really not, but I did. And then I was yelling at this guy. And then all of a sudden I realized, well, wait a second. You're the one that offered to help. You're the one that offered to solder it. You're the guy that knows what you're doing, and you didn't check your source. So then I had to I felt like an ass, and I had to apologize like repeatedly. I felt terrible that I had done that. I was in the wrong. I was in the wrong all the way around. So we got it fixed. Everything is, going good, except for we're going on in 5 minutes and I can't feel my hands. The first, and this was a matinee. So we had a matinee and a dinner show. So the matinee, guys, I literally, first song in, sticks are flying. I can't play. And I'm fighting this horrible cold. The suck meter is pegging, right?
Oh man.
Okay. So I'm playing terrible. I'm really playing terrible. I'm mortified. And so finally I'm like, okay, all I can do, I'm not doing any fills. Anytime I would try to hit a tom, sticks would fly. And we all know, drum teachers, the whole thing is to have a nice, relaxed grip on the stick. The stick's set in your hands. You don't hit the drums, you bounce the sticks off of the drums. I spend countless hours working on my technique, as we all do. So I'm now holding the sticks like this and just keeping time. That's what I did. Didn't play my drum solo. We got to a couple songs where there's big drum parts, and I told Sam, no, don't do it. There's one song, Traveling Man, Beautiful Loser, that has got a drum solo in it, and it's a very complicated piece of music. Big 16-bar drum solo thing from the live Bullet record. We're doing the Turn the Page show. So he passes that, goes to the next one. We get through the show. By the end of the show, my hands had come back to life, but they were cramping. They kept pulling in. Now, while all this is going on, okay, I'm dying back there, and I'm the guy driving the bus. Well, of course, if it's going to rain, it's going to pour. Sam never breaks string. He breaks a string. David's not wireless, our lead guitar player. He walks too far, unplugs the guitar, plugs the guitar back in. Then all of a sudden his pedal board goes out. Pedal board just quits working for no reason, just quits working. He unplugs the pedal board, goes directly into his amplifier. He's having to control everything with volume knobs. We get through the show, and dude, it was just like the crowd loved the show. We made it through, and the crowd loved it. We didn't know. We go back for the second show. I still didn't play as good, but I played better. Sam restringed the guitar. I stretched out my hands. We got through the second show, right? No problem. The next two subsequent shows are going okay, but there's little challenges that are happening. We're having to travel not real far, but we're driving a few hours, set up, tear down, set up, tear down. And then we get to last night's show, and we're in the middle of the show, or we're in the middle of setup. I just get my drums set up. Luckily, I wasn't standing or sitting down on the riser. I was standing on it, and the whole drum riser.
Oh my God.
My whole drum set trash. My drum set is, my drum sets are named. My brown drum set is Gretchen. My champagne drum set is Cristal. It was pristine, not a scratch on 4 toms, all wasted. And again, these are the things that happen. These are, and the band, the more things happen, like the more like, oh man, the bass, the guitar rig went out, one person goes and helps, Sam broke a guitar string, somebody's helping him change his string. The harder it got, the more we came together. And I'm really proud of that fact. It got harder. Something else broke. We came together tighter. Something else went wrong. We came together tighter. Something else went wrong. We came together tighter. In years past, the band would have grown apart, and we would have been like, screw him, But we came together this time, and we got tighter. We got better. We got tighter. We got better. And the shows are going really good. The shows are going fantastic. So the moral to the story here is, it's not, again, if it's going to happen to you when you're on the road. It's a matter of when. I have so many stories of trips just like this that have happened before, where things have, I mean, dude, I have stories you can't believe. My whole tenure with the band started, the first tour I ever did with the band was through Eastern Europe in an active war zone. No joke. We played in Kosovo, Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, and Hungary. And we were 20 miles from Parliament the night that we went in and raided it to get Milosevic out for crimes against humanity. We felt the concussions. And the band's always kind of had this, okay, we're swinging and ducking attitude. And this trip proves to me that the band is tighter and better than ever. And I'm so thankful for it. But it also proves to me that if you really want to be in this business, and you really want to be out here and play, and you really want to do this, great, go for it. But it's not, the end result is what you're seeing. The end result of the show is the end result of a lot of work beforehand. And I just want people to know that. And I'm sure the guys in Def Leppard and Motley Crue don't go through these kinds of things. They just don't. But they have Kiss, they've got like 1 billion people working for them. We don't. We've got the 6 of us. And there's a lot of bands out there doing what we do. And you can do it too. It's all you young musicians and young drummers. But just be prepared. Be very prepared. So that's my story. So.
Wow. I'm glad you're all right, Bart. I'm glad you didn't die.
Yeah. I'm amazed that you're able to play after getting electrocuted.
I really couldn't, but that's the title of today's show. The show must go on, So you go out there and you do what you got to do,
That hand cramping thing reminded me of, I had a show at SF Jazz Center, which is pretty much the biggest venue in Northern California for jazz, and sold out show. Mofone was playing, and we're playing Big Chief, which is this Professor Longhair New Orleans tune, big, busy drum part, parade snare. And I had a big, it's one of my featured drum solos, and my hand just starts cramping up like a claw. And I couldn't even my hand was around the stick, but I couldn't unbend it willfully with my hand. So I had to take my other hand and sort of pry my fingers open. And while I'm, and it's a two-handed parade style snare drum part. And so I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to communicate to the band, no drum solo. And people, I talked to people afterwards in the audience. They didn't even notice. They had no idea what was happening, and I was in a complete panic about it. But drink your water. That's the moral of my story.
Drink your water. And bananas.
Yeah, right.
Yep, you nailed it, Chip.
Yeah.
Yep. So often the audience has no idea any of this stuff is going on unless you make a face like something's wrong. And then the audience looks at it and says, oh, something's happening. Something's not going right. But it's just keep that poker face. And there's so much going on at a live concert. People might not notice all of these things.
Yeah. I can't agree with that more. I've played in a band in the past where one of the guys, when we've messed things up, our arrangement or something, he always feels a compulsion to mention it out loud on the microphone. that we messed up. Like he'll acknowledge, oh, well, I guess we needed to rehearse that one a little bit more or something like that. And it just it makes me cringe when he does it, because I'm like, all you're doing is making the audience feel uncomfortable, because they didn't, 99% of them didn't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah, don't apologize for the band from the stage. Never do that. Don't do that. That's show business 101.
Yeah.
And drummers too. The other thing is that we have 4 limbs, most of us, but a lot of work can be done with 3 limbs. Just go out and check out Rick Allen with Def Leppard doing the one-handed, all on one hand, and it can be done.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they had his setup with the pedals that he had fashioned.
Nice.
Oh,
They had a little sort of little booth exhibit, and it showed his pedals. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Oh,
that's awesome. That's awesome. So now, okay, so Jeremy, that's your road story where you cramped up, and or playing when you're sick. Chip, you have to have one. Let me hear. I mean, you have to have a road war story.
I have a few. I have 2 that I thought of. That we were playing in Mexico City with Long John Hunter on tour, and I got sick the night before, and I was still sick when we played, and they kind of made me play, and I had a bucket next to my drum set, and I was barfing in the bucket while playing shuffles.
Oh, God.
And I made it through the show, even though I was puking during the whole show. Nobody seemed to notice. Nobody seemed to notice. But the other story that comes to mind, I don't know if this is a harrowing thing, but the band was really tight. We're on that same tour. We were in Texas at JJ's, and we were playing, and in the middle of our second set, everything was just going great, and the guitar player, Long John Hunter, was doing this great solo, and then all of a sudden, over the PA, over all the speakers, came this harmonica in the wrong key. This harmonica started playing, and the band, we were just looking at each other like, what is that? Where is that? And we looked over across the building at the bar. The bartender had a harmonica and a microphone that went straight into the sound system.
Oh my God!
There were people cheering him on, and he was just ruining the whole thing. And it was just horrible. Outside in the parking lot, when the guy came to pay us, he was just like, "So, what'd you think of the harp tender? Get it, harp tender?" And we were just like, "Whatever, dude. It was horrible. But you never know what may happen, and the show must go on. You're right. You've got to keep pushing forward. You got to have that show, and it's got to go on.
Did I ever tell you guys the old time rock and roll story?
No.
Oh, you'll like this one. So it's a New Year's Eve gig at like one of those Elks Lodge, one of those types of places down in Pacifica. This band, Hot Links, I was playing, and it's like New Orleans R&B, blues, a little bit of rock and roll. And we're loading in, and pretty big crowd, and these people come up, a bunch of women come up. Hey, do you guys play old time rock and roll? And the band leader says, yeah, that's what we do. That's our thing. Great. Oh, so happy. So we're playing, and after every single tune, they're screaming out, old time rock and roll, old time rock and roll. And the band leader doesn't get it that they're asking for the Seeger tune, right? And he thinks they're just wanting kind of like more old time rock and roll, right? So he keeps calling like earlier tunes, like earlier rock and roll tunes.
He's getting to the 40s.
Yeah, and he's like, right. It's like, well, it doesn't get any more old time rock and roll than this Chuck Berry classic, and he's starting to call tunes that we haven't rehearsed, right? But everybody kind of knows, right? Everybody can play Johnny Be Good or whatever. And then still old time rock and roll, and he's just like befuddled. Finally, we take a break. By the time we're done, there's nobody there, nobody on the dance floor. I mean, and the DJ puts on in the set break old time rock and roll, the song, and everybody gets on the dance floor and starts.
Oh, dude, that's horrible. That's horrible. Rick, what about you? Let's hear one of your horror stories where the show had to go on.
I was trying to pick between shows with no audience, bad sound, ultimate fatigue, drunk band members, playing through injuries and playing through sickness.
Wow.
So there's a lot to choose from.
There's a
Oh,
lot.
dude, it's an encyclopedia. I hear you.
Yeah. How much time do we have? I did a tour in the late 90s. It was a 9-week tour with a rockabilly band. And these guys worked so hard. It was the Hillbilly Hellcats is the name of the band. We're still buddies today. And these guys were so hardworking. It was 3 guys in a van. Okay. And you're your own road crew, like what you have, Bart, but it's this one van, and you've got to set up all the gear. And we would never take a night off if they were just looking at the budget. They wanted to, the band is out there to promote the CDs, right, and make some money. And so if there was a night off, they'd be driving around town looking for a gig. So it was just so hard to keep up. And then what they would do is they had some great CDs out. Well, they would consign them at record stores. So you'd get into town, and the first thing you'd have to do is go to all of these different record stores. You couldn't sit back and chill for a little while. It's like we're going from store to store to store. And, the band would show up to collect the money on their CDs that they consigned, and they haven't been there in the year. And the shop is like, wow, we didn't really think you'd ever come back to collect the money on this. But they made a little money here and there. But man, it was just really, really super exhausting. So,
Oh man.
And it was just nonstop, like boom, boom, boom. You just never got a rest. And you'd have to get to the venue, set your gear up, play all night, tear your own gear down, put it back in the van, and then they'd always sleep in the same hotel and keep it really cool in the room. Like the leader of the band liked the icy cold for sleeping. So it was, which I think is probably good for you, but it was just, and always ate at the same place. So it was just like this long, ongoing kind of nightmare in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other half, I got to see the whole country. I got to go to Maine, to New Orleans, got to play in front of great audiences. So I think that we live for those moments on stage when it's going good, because it always did go good on stage. And that's how you balance this all out. So really enjoy that performance and recognize that when someone is up on stage, what they've done to get there might have been really, really gnarly.
Yeah, it really is. It's about that time on stage. One thing too that like we do is we have we have really 3 shows that the band does. We have our original music, we have the Bob Seger tribute show, and then we have just hours and hours of like Southern rock classics. And when you talk about Southern rock, you're talking about bands like the Charlie Daniels Band. You're talking about bands like the Allman Brothers and Marshall Tucker Band. And a lot of times when you just think about those bands alone, you think, okay, well, that's really very easy music. Well, if you think that, you've obviously never listened to it. The Charlie Daniels Band, I mean, his band, like, it was the best musical concert I've ever seen in my life. And it's everything from, everybody thinks Devil Went Down to Georgia, but my God, listen to the song Sidewinder. I mean, come on. It's all jazz and rock and funk. And also blues and gospel and contemporary Christian music when you talk about Charlie Daniels Band. With the Allman Brothers, I mean, play Whipping Post, go for it. I mean, you need a calculator to get through the song. This is very complicated music to play. And the Allman Brothers had 2 drummers and a percussionist. So you're covering a lot of ground when you're playing that music. So my point with that is, like, when this particular run, it's mostly the Bob Seger show, but we have a show on Saturday, I think, in Yuma, and that's our original and the Southern Rock show. And so after we do sound check, we'll rehearse and we run through the songs that we we're going to play on that show that maybe we haven't played in a while. So you've got to be, and you're tired from loading in, setting up, all this stuff. So then after you're done setting up and stuff, we'll go through a half-hour rehearsal, which is nice. You get you kind of warmed up, get you loosened up, and then we'll stop and go backstage. And if there's food back there, we'll have a little snack. They open doors and we go play. So the show's one thing because we've been doing it for so long. We never phone it in. I will tell you that. From the time we hit the go button, it is on. But it's easier because you know the book, you know the songs, you know the shtick, you know what's going to happen. But when you're doing the rehearsal, it's like, oh man, we haven't played this one, and the time signature goes from here to there, and how do I handle that? So you got to be on your toes there, and so the young drummers young musicians out there, that's usually the way that bands do it when they're on the road. You get done with sound check, hey, we got time, let's practice something, or let's jam something. That's how a lot of songs get written, So again, just be aware and be prepared for that. And like Rick said, there isn't a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of time for, I'm going to go sit down and chill for 5 minutes. There's not a lot of that. We're lucky that like today, we have the day off. We're not playing tonight. Everybody's kind of recuperating. I'm teaching later this afternoon, doing deck today, but it's a chill day. And so I'm, lucky that I have that. So when you do get the chill time, take it, because, even if, Rick, you've said this in the past, even if it's 5 minutes to go catch your breath outside and look at the clouds or something, take it, because you need that. You need that mental decompression, What about this, guys?
Can I throw something in there?
Please, by all means.
Along those lines, I think it's really, really important to remember how important your attitude is, both in terms of how you deal with adversity and also how you deal with the people around you. And your attitude can change the experience, completely change the experience that you have of the gig, and it can also impact how other people's experience of the gig is, right? So, Bart, of course, we're so glad the tour went well and that you didn't get hurt, beyond that initial shock. And when your drums collapsed in the middle of the stage, that everything's okay. And you were saying, that it brought the band tighter and it brought us together in the face of all these challenges. But you can imagine a scenario where you guys weren't that tight, and these kinds of things, people got angry at each other and their fuses got short and they started, or they had the outburst that you had, but didn't recognize their role and didn't apologize. And then it messed up the vibe, right? Like we've all been in those kind of situations where like, that's a miserable hang, and so much about being on the road is about the hang. And the experience that you have with the musicians in the group and the support people. And, you got to remember that bad stuff is going to happen. And not every gig is going to go perfectly. And sometimes, most of the time, it's not your fault. Occasionally, some things will happen that, you mess up on. And if you have a good attitude about it, take your own responsibility for the things you did wrong, but also just sort of let roll with the punches, man. You got to let that stuff roll. Otherwise, you're going to be having a miserable time, and then it's going to affect the next gig. So.
I really agree with that, and that's why I want to recognize this is that, and our saxophone player Carl, Rick, I've told you this before. If you put the two of you in a room together, there'd be this positive energy nuclear thing happening. Carl is like the most positive, fun guy that I mean, he's just like you. And I'm not proud to say I lost it the other day when it scared the crap out of me. And Carl was this cohesive glue that came in and he was like, look, guys, we're brothers here. You know, we're a family. We've been together this long. And he really de-escalated things. And then, and I already knew I was in the wrong. I already knew that I was like, God, I shouldn't have blown up. I was the one that should have checked the damn electrical thing, because I was the one that volunteered to solder it. And you know, we're all going a million miles an hour to try to make this thing happen, you know. And rule number one, when you're working on something, never assume that the machine isn't running, you know. Don't stick your hand in the gears, you know. And that's exactly what I did. And then, and like you said, Jeremy, the fuses are, you know, it's burning down. You know, this is going wrong. That's going wrong. That's going wrong. I can't help any of these. Oh my God, you know, and then poof, you know, literally poof. And Carl really brought it together. So I think that recognizing when you have somebody in the band that is that person, well, like I said about Greg earlier, you know, Greg's like this wizard. Greg can, if there's a problem, everybody goes, Greg, you know, and he, you know, he's amazing. The man's a pillar, and he can really figure out the technical stuff. And Carl, same thing. And Carl just was like, he diffused it and he helped fix the thing. And that vibe is so damn important. You know, the vibe is, I mean, hey, look at the stories of Aerosmith, right? One of the greatest rock bands ever. They literally broke up. The band broke up over spilt milk backstage. That's what broke the band up, was spilt milk, you know? And it's ridiculous to think about that. But when you're out here and you're doing it, tensions run high over the stupidest things. And having somebody like Carl that recognizes that and kind of can help diffuse things makes you realize what a jerk you're being without telling you you're being a jerk. It's like, oh, thank goodness, you know. So
that's a super valuable band member, Bart. That's for sure. And I think the key to a lot of this and a lot of the top drummers we've interviewed is that they never complain. They make they're an easy band member to work with, and that's why they hold the chair, especially these drummers who've been with these bands long term, like Mitch Marine playing with Dwight Yoakam, or you're near 20, how many years with Sam Morrison Band?
24.
24 years.
Yeah.
Billy Cobham, the great Billy Cobham, who was on a couple of weeks ago, was talking about that when he was working with Miles. He's like, he kept his head down and did what he was asked.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what you have to do, you know? And I think that when you do find yourself in a situation where something just silly happens, you know, at the gig, on the way to the gig, on the way home from the gig, you know, again, you just kind of have to roll with the punches and remember, hey, look, this is what I want. This is what I wanted. I wanted to be the drummer in a band. Rick, go ahead.
I think we should close out because I'm so curious from all of you what your best part of doing gigs and being a musician is.
Best part. I love that. Jeremy, you go.
All worth it because I know that we're all telling all these horror stories, but
right.
I don't think any of us made our lives for the world.
Exactly. Jeremy, you go first.
What's the best part of performing on stage? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, and being in a band and all of it.
You know, for me, there's a lot of it has to do with the connection with other people that I'm playing with. If the vibe is there and the music's good, I don't even care what style we're playing. Like, as long as it's good and the intention is there, we're going to have this experience that is like greater than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. And, you know, there's a community that you find in playing with other people, and there's a community that you find in performing with an audience. And there's that sort of unique relationship between the band, the venue, and the audience every time. And it's a little different every time. And, you know, when it's right or when it works, it's magical, man. And like the experience being part of that as a performer is just the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Chip, you go. You're next.
You know, I think some of the best experiences in a band were my metal band that I played with. We all became brothers. You know what I mean? We got closer as humans, and that interaction, like Jeremy was talking about, with each other. I mean, me and the bass player had the psychic friends network going on. You know, we could tell when each of us was going to go change a part, and we would change at the same time. Wouldn't even have to look at each other. And I think that that human connection is the thing that I miss most about the bands that I played in before. I've become lifelong friends with those people, and we're still in touch to this day. How about you, Rick?
You know, it's that spirit of playing at a live show, that energy that's at a concert. If it's reggae, it's Irie. It could be groove. It's seeing that pit like at one of the psychobilly shows, and just this energy that's in the air, and then to be like drumming, it's like magic. It totally
Right
is
on.
like magic. No other experience at all, and to see the joy that that brings on to people, no matter what the style. And maybe they just had so much energy inside them, they needed to just get crazy, and they feel better. And just to be able to bring that to people, and then the journey of going around meeting all these great people and the connections you make, you just can't beat it. How about you, Bart?
You know, you guys all everything that you said, I will second everything that everybody said. And for myself, I mean, I can sit here and name off bands all day long. Um, but my entire life, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a professional drummer first and foremost, but I also wanted to be the guy in the band. And it didn't matter if it was the school jazz band or marching band. I always wanted to be in a band. I love the connection that we're all speaking of. And I always loved like groups like, I love the Beatles. I love the Rolling Stones. Kiss, all these bands that have stuck it out for years and years and years and gone around the world and done their thing. And the fact that I'm in a band that's been together for 24 years and we play these amazing shows, and the band, I mean, anything that I complain about is simply that, a complaint. Again, when I always say we hit the go button, when I count to four and that first song comes in, it's just explosive. It's like a bomb goes off and the band just locks and rocks. And this is my Beatles. This is my Led Zeppelin. This is my Kiss. And a few years ago, I went through a really hard, personal, bad time, and we all just kind of again did this thing, and it was very. They're my brothers, I mean, there isn't anybody in this group that you get in arguments with somebody or you may have a disagreement or something like that. But, there isn't anybody in this band that I wouldn't, jump in front of a train for, I mean, I love these guys. And then over and above that, they're amazing musicians. We just played a show down at Campus Jacks in Newport Beach a couple of weeks ago. And I had this out of body experience is the only way I can describe it. There was these big screens behind the band, and it lit the stage up in red, and I could see the whole venue in red, right? And I'm sitting back there playing, and I'm like thinking to myself, how did I get in this group? What happened that made me get here? Because this is exactly the band I've wanted to play in. Carl's the saxophone player I'm talking about. The guy's a rock star. I can't watch him because I get caught up in the Carl show, and he's just fun as hell to watch. He plays his butt off. He sings his butt off. And then Greg, our bass player, is all over the place. Our guitar player is jumping around. Our guitar player's nickname is Goat. And he's up there doing his thing, and I call it the Goat Boogie. And everybody's just doing their thing. And I'm like, what happened that I got in this great band? So that's my great thing, is those little moments, Those moments are priceless. You can't put a price. You can't buy that. You cannot pay for that. You can't do it, Yeah. Chip, you're muted.
It's all
right. We got to wrap up, but thank you all so much for tuning in today. We'll be back again next week. We're going to be talking about the college audition circuit that Evan and I just went on, and that. And thanks for tuning in. Oh, and don't forget,
Thank you.
April 20th, Deck Day. Check out our website. I just put a flyer up on the Facebook page, and it's also on our website. We're going to have a live clinic day on April 20th up in the Bay Area. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thanks for watching, guys.